Coming, everybody. This is July meeting. We have 3 showcases tonight. First is from the Student Peer Interaction Network Subcommittee, and that will be introduced by Natsuho. And following that, we're going to hear from the Accessibility and Language Learning SIG from Alex, and I believe Michael will be joining us later as well. And finally, from the Japan Association for Self-Access Learning, JASAL, and our speakers will be Claire and Katherine this evening. Thank you very much for coming to present at Gifu JALT. I'm not going to say any more because otherwise I'll be taking more of your valuable time. So let's begin our evening hearing from Natsuho and the Student Peer Interaction Network Subcommittee. Thank you, Natsuho.
Thank you very much. So I will now share the screen. これかな?
Sorry to interrupt. I heard from Chelanna, her plans fell through, so she can actually join if you can send her the link.
Oh, nice. Nice. Wait a sec. let me send her the link first then.
All right, I can do that for you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, we go, Chelanna. Okay, got it. And
great. So share screen.
Can you do it?
Here it is. Okay. Oh, what is this? Me here, and I can move myself. This is funny. Can I get rid of myself? No. This is funny. Okay. Maybe we can start before Chelanna comes because it's the introduction of the group and I'm sure she knows about the group. So, thank you very much. So,
oh, she's here. She's just coming.
Nice. Chelanna, hello. Okay. So, hi, Chelanna. So we're Student Peer Interaction Network Subcommittee, and before I actually talk about ourselves, I would like to ask all of you by showing your hands, not physically, maybe the reaction thing. How many of you have heard of this name, SPINT, or know about the group? If you know, please could you raise your hand? Not many of you, obviously. Right, thank you. Yes. So that is why I am here today. Unfortunately, not many people in JALT know about us. So today I am going to talk about ourselves, but also I am thinking of opening the floor and make this a discussion-based presentation to hear your opinions and ideas to make the group more supportive to students in JALT and also a better group for JALT itself as a whole. So, 今日はよろしくお願いします。So, this is about us. So, what it means and what do we do? So we were established in the EBM in February 2021. So we are about 1 year old, 1.5 year old. And at that time, we were graduate student subcommittee. So at first we were grad student subcommittee, and we changed our name into student peer interaction network subcommittee in the February EBM this year, in order to capture the variety of things that we aim to do. And we usually have 3 members, but currently, obviously, it's me and Chelanna at the moment. So we would like to recruit a new member. And our aim is to support all kinds of students and potential students in JALT. So all kinds of students include of course, full-time students and the part-time students in JALT, but also undergrad students, MA students, and PhD students. And potential students here means that this means people who are thinking of going back to academia or interested in studying again. And so these are the 3 things that we mainly do: sending out beneficial information to members. So for example, I sent out an email about the event tonight, that we're going to have a pleasant presentation at Gifu JALT tonight. And we also sent out an email about the student showcase in Akita chapter today, so that students in JALT can come and join and interact with other students in JALT, and holding student forum or teacher training forum. So these are held in Pentig and JALT National. And also, this is something that we are thinking of doing, but offer a place for students in JALT to network. So it's not one way from us to the student or the members, but also students and students. So a place for them to interact and network and talk to each other, how it's like to be a student, or like what's your struggle, what do you enjoy about being a student, or what do you study, something like that. So Chelanna, is there anything that you want to add?
No, I think you've kind of covered it. Like you said, you know, we are small and relatively new. We are still trying to figure out, you know, who the other students are and get our information out to them, especially, and see how we can support each other. But yeah, it's been really good, and hoping to get the ball rolling on that and connect as a student community within JALT.
Right. Thank you. So, like I said, I would like to open the floor for this presentation and ask you to give us as many opinions and ideas, suggestions as you can. So this is my first and the biggest struggle. I mean, Mike, make you up some.
Natsuho, I can ask later. Just continue your presentation, please.
Okay.
Just raise my hand just so that I don't forget my question.
Okay, but you can ask now if that helps, because the floor is open anytime to.
Okay. Have you started networking with grad schools across Japan?
No, and actually that is one of the questions that I would like to ask you today.
Okay. The question would be how to network?
Right, how we can do that, or how people usually do that.
Okay.
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 So maybe we can start with that. So, because we aim, like the students in JALT or students overall, they need a job in the future. Some people are already working, maybe part-time students, but some people, they are full-time students and they need to get a job. And many, I think, not many, but some people in JALT are thinking of going to university, want to teach at a university, and that's why they need MA or PhD degree. And when people are looking for universities online or face-to-face, where do people usually look at? Like, I went to grad school, but I went to grad school as soon as I graduated, finished my undergrad program. So I would like to know, where do people look at and how people, I don't know, kind of look for the information to like which university to go to or which school is good. かなと思います。なみこさん。
Actually, you're asking the right person, because actually I entered TUJ
Mhm.
and then I stopped midway because I was too busy with work. So I'm thinking about returning. And one of the ways that I'm looking at graduate school programs right now is through the professors that have presented at the plenary talks and all the other events that I attend. So right now I'm deciding between Anaheim and TUJ, leaning more towards Anaheim because they're, you know, the faculty there are amazing. But yeah, so I think if you're not someone who's going directly to graduate school, it's the same with any other, you know, graduate school programs, but you're looking for the teacher that you want to study with, the professor that you want to study with, ideally. And then looking at that faculty or faculty member, and then looking at the other people who are there. So for example, Anaheim, you've got David Noonan, sorry. You have the former, what's his name? Andy Curtis, is that his name? The former TEFL president. And then you've got like Hayo Randers, you know, all those people who are like members of, or not members of JALT, but like, you know, distinguished like guests or faculty, or not faculty, but like advisors for some of the special interest stakes. Those are the people probably. And then the schools that, you know, they teach or associated with. That's how I look at it.
I see. So they or at least you look at the teachers.
Yeah, because it's a lot of money to invest if you're not going to be studying with, you know, famous people, especially in the in this industry. So yeah. And then I mean, it's a known fact, but obviously members of JALT, or for the most part, most of them are studying at TUJ. I mean, there's a huge portion of students studying at TUJ. Also, those online programs like University of, was it Birmingham, University of Nottingham, all the UK schools. So there are some very popular online ones too.
So do those universities all have online? And do people usually do online program?
Well, TUJ for a while was doing online. So a lot of their like distinguished lecture series was online. So the next speaker is what's his name? Renanya from the National University of Singapore. So they've got an amazing you know, list of faculty there. So usually when I go to TUJ, because I'm still continuing my studies, even though I'm not officially enrolled, yeah, I see a lot of the JALT members there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then also University of Warwick.
University of Warwick?
Yeah, that's Dornier's group of people. Even though he passed away, yeah.
ありがとうございます. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, and Mike Yap-san.
I just want to suggest, since you're still trying to explore where you can gather potential members, I would say start with graduate schools in Japan that I think the first question is, are the graduate students that you're looking for only specialize in language learning?
I think
Or
many of
are you open to all graduate programs, or is
we aim to support people in JALT, and
okay?
so yes, language education mainly, I think.
I think the reason the reason why I'm asking is that not many students can afford to go to JALT.
Mm.
Paying the membership is quite expensive for a student, especially if you're hard on money. But if you want to widen your net, so to speak, I would suggest that you look at graduate schools in Japan that offer language learning or TESOL, then try to network with the professors.
Okay.
That needs a bit of research because you need to identify who these individuals are. But I think that's where, instead of just focusing on JALT in itself, because you don't really know, because most of the majority of the members of JALT are professors, university professors.
True.
There's a very small portion of students. But if you want to widen that, widen your net, then I would suggest that you course your invitation through teachers who teach at graduate school and are members of JALT.
That's a very good point. Thank you very much. And Jackson?
Yeah, thank you. Please correct. I apologize if I just missed it, but does SPINS have a open Facebook page or group at this moment?
No.
I believe there would be a lot of advantages in making one like that, because building on what Mike said, after you reach out to people from different grad schools, it would be great for them to have a place to immediately join without necessarily becoming a member immediately. Yeah, so if there's a open Facebook group, that can become a community in itself, and the job of the committee would then be just to share information, and of course the information shared on that page would be JALT related. So you are still serving and promoting JALT, but just towards a group that is now a community in itself, and the committee can also have their own ways to help each other. Have advice, maybe even social events. And also another good way to bring more value to that open group, and again, building on what Mike said, is to promote grants that are within offered in JALT. LD6 grant, for example, the PANSIC grant, conference attendance grant, even the big research grants, Niigata chapters grant, like all those grants are, because they're related to money, and that's one of the best ways to attract people, isn't it? Especially for those who are still, those who do not have research funds and they're paying towards the tuition. If I just believe that if there is an active community like that, an open group that is not limited to only JALT people, it would be a lot easier to attract and basically have a place for people to immediately join once they hear about SPINS. And then the information can be gathered and put there, right? And for the committee, I don't think it would be a lot of work, because you can simply repost things that you see that are posted in other JALT groups, and you can just basically repost or share those events onto the page. But yeah, having that group that does not have a paywall can be quite advantageous.
Right, exactly.
Thanks. Yeah, great idea.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your suggestions and ideas. All right. We only have 20 minutes, so maybe we can move on to the next topic. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your ideas. So the next one, as we just have seen in the audience, not many people in JALT know about SPINS, and this is difficult because if people do not know about us, there is no way that we can help them. And what we were thinking at the moment is to make a video about spins ourselves. So we are this, and what we do is this, and what we aim is to do this, and maybe ask each chapter in JALT to play it before their monthly event or during the break or even after the event when they have time, so that people would, I don't know, at least can learn about us. But what else can we do? What do you think we can do to let people in JALT know about us? Claire, お願いします。
Well, we're one of your domestic partners at JASAL, and we have quite a young community because a lot of grad school students work in self-access centres, and they might be people who are doing their MAs or thinking about starting one or moving into the field. So we're happy, if you make a video, we're happy to share it to our members as well.
That would be great. Thank you very much. We will make sure to send you that video. お願いします。Thank you. Bill, お願いします。Hello.
Hi. Yeah, if you send me a short announcement with like a link to your spins page on the JALT site, I can put it into the JALT newsletter that comes out each month.
So JALT talk?
That's right. Yeah. Let me put my email. I just put it into the chat, pr@jalt.org.
That would be nice. Thank you. We will make sure to do that too.
I have a quick question about that. Sorry. Bill, when is the deadline for that every month?
Generally it's like a couple of days before the end of the month. So I try to get it out on the last day of the month, or if it's late, the first day of the month. But this month I want to try to get it out like next Friday. Because I'm flying to America on the weekend, so I'd like to get it out for the ZPD that's happening Friday night, because it's an hour early and it's a online social after that I won't be joining from the airplane.
Jackson, お願いします。
Thanks. Just a short comment. And again, if there's a Facebook group that you would post your video on, then it's a lot easier for you to share those in all of the JALT chapter and SIG groups as well. It's not spamming, but it kind of is spamming. But I think, you know, when there's good information out there, I don't think anyone would be bothered by you sharing that. And also there are, you know, people who are, oh, my rice is done, sorry. There are people who are in the local areas who are joining those Facebook groups, but not necessarily JALT members. And that is until they find a strong reason. And I think when those who are students and when they see that SPINS is a community, that can become a reason for them to join as a JALT member as well. Right. Thanks.
Nice, good point. And thank you very much. And about this topic, one more question from me. Like, for example, I sent out an email about one event today in another chapter, and I joined that event, of course, because I'm chair. But apparently, I don't think any of the members of the group like SPINS. So nobody who have received the email joined the event. It's not a big like number. We do not have a lot of members, but like nobody. And I was like, maybe people do not check their emails. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they just ignore them. So like, I'm wondering, because you're here for Gifu JALT event, and where did you learn about the event? Was it an email or the Facebook? Glenn.
Sorry, I got the email, so I came. I was just going to say that don't rely on anybody else reading emails or putting information out for you. You just have to keep sending information out and finding other ways to contact people. And even though you think that somebody's going to do something, most likely they're not. So as you are moving around, it's really the personal contacts that are going to make a big difference more than emails. So joining, like Bill's quite often joins our meetings here in Gifu, it's a very easy opportunity to ask things about JALT to Bill, which is fantastic. In the same way, really, yeah, my advice is just don't rely on people and just start going out and visiting other groups and just introducing yourself and letting people get to know you. And the more you do that, it'll have a snowball effect, because there's only 2 of you at the moment, so you need a few more people.
Right. Okay.
That's
Be
it.
active. Be active. Thank you very much. All right. Can we quickly move on to the next topic, then finish? Thank you. So my last topic is, so what can we do? What can SPINS do to help students in JALT? What kind of problems students in JALT have, or what kind of supports do they want? And now what we do is just sending out emails like about grants, as Jackson said, or the event, or about the opportunities to like submit proposals to JALT groups or outside, or any free events outside JALT. But I'm sure students have lots of kinds of problems. And what do you think they are? And what do you think students will appreciate? Mike, onegaishimasu.
No, it's actually a question and not a suggestion, because since you and Chelanna started this, I'm curious, what problems did you have? Why did you suddenly decide to organize this, to make this group? I think it's good to start from where your personal concerns when you were still students, and then again, I think Jackson mentioned earlier, money is definitely an issue. But aside from that, I'm curious, did you have any problems when you were students?
I honestly didn't really have any. And I think I'm a little bit slightly different from the majority of students in JALT, because JALT do not have many Japanese members, especially young members like me. So I guess I'm just guessing, but students in JALT are usually or mostly people who graduated, that finished the undergrad program, then worked for a while, then decided to going back to academia to start their MA program or PhD. But I just started as soon as I graduated. So I think my problems are slightly different from theirs. And I think because I wasn't working while I was doing my master's program, well, I was teaching part-time, but I wasn't make my own living at the time. So I think my situation is a little bit different from theirs. And that's why I have a little bit of struggle thinking about their problems.
And
Okay.
I am kind of representing, or was at the time, future students. I start my program in September.
Mhm.
And what I was hoping mostly was networking with
Okay.
other students. And of course, yeah, information about grants and things specifically tailored to students, which I wasn't really plugged into and aren't quite plugged into yet, since I'm starting in September. But that's one reason why I decided to get involved.
Okay. I think that's a good start. If you start identifying what your personal concerns are, my only I think I'm just drawing from the experience of my wife when she was doing her graduate studies here way back. Because there was a big community of graduate students coming from different schools, different majors, but it was more of community support. Community meaning the availability of work, where can you find work, knowing the nature of your graduate school, what you had to go through. That having that community helped the graduate students to survive, so to speak, right? And I think that's one of the goals that you have. If you can identify your key support areas, so grants would be one. What are the other two? If you can identify that, then it's easier for potential members to understand why they have to join your group.
Thank you very much for your advice. Right, community. Okay, Jackson, お願いします。
Thank you. I think the community part is really huge, and what SPINS can be is the community at a national level, right? So that students, or perhaps even international level, there could be people who are joining the community with the aim of coming to Japan, but not yet in Japan, and that would be one thing that stands out. But I think another thing that could be done, and this would be great if it works out, but I'm not sure, is if first-time presenters who, and they can 2 or 3 or 4 can gather to do a presentation together under the SPINS name, right? SPINS present, and then like a first-time presenter showcase, and have that be accepted to present at chapters, or maybe even a PenSig or the big conference, depending on the topic. But if that works out, SPINS present and then is supporting first-time presenters, that would become another reason for new presenters who are likely also students of certain levels to join. And the name would also be put out there, so it is marketing for the group at the same time. It would take time to get to that level, but if it does work out, I think that can look quite nice.
Good point. Thank you. And Nick-san, お願いします。
Oh, yes. I was just going to say that for the question of what can we do to help students in JALT, I think you might find that those who are doing their PhDs often find it difficult to find participants, and it can be quite stressful. I know it was for myself. So if you can find a way of helping people network to find participants when they're doing their research, I think you might find that a lot of students in JALT would be most grateful for that.
Great point. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. And Bio-san, お願いします。
Yeah, just to follow up on what Jackson said, that's actually completely possible at the national conference level. Groups like committees can put in for a presentation that's about an hour long, and it doesn't get vetted, it just goes automatically accepted. You say, student showcase of 4 or 5 new presenters. And then you put out your call for papers for 4 or 5 student presenters who want to do this at the conference. It's completely doable. I mean, not now for November. I think it's too late, but for the one after that, next November.
Nice, thank you. Right.
And PenSig too, maybe, but I'm not really sure. PenSig's more of approaching the PenSig committee and saying, I've got this idea, what do you think about it? Right.
I'm actually going to be a part of the PenSig members, so that will be easier. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Glenn, お願いします。
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say coming to 10 to 7, and we probably should take a short break and then hear from other two speakers tonight.
Right.
So we're going to finish tonight at 8. So if it's okay to wrap up, finally, that's and then let's take a short break after that, and then we'll hear
Yes.
from our two presenters.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your great advice and ideas. More brains, better. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Natsuho. All right, so let's take a short siesta, break, till 7 o'clock. Is that okay? And then we'll go straight through with our last two groups of presenters. Sorry, not individuals, groups of presenters. We'll hear from the ALL-SIG and then from JASAL, half an hour each. Is that okay with everyone? Fantastic, okay. Well, if you want to stay and chat, stay and chat. If not, we'll meet back at 7. And Brent, you can pause the recording at this point. That would be great. Sorry. Hello, recording. From the Accessibility and Language Learning SIG. And I'll let both of you introduce to us about that. Thank you very much, Alex and Michael.
Thank you, Glenn. Just share the slide first. Oops, I'm sorry about that. Can everyone see the slides?
Yep, I can see your main slide.
Yes.
Great.
Just that.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting us, Alex and myself, to talk about our special interest group, the Accessibility and Language Learning, or ALL-SIG. For the time that we have, we'll just talk about how the SIG came about and where we are right now. So the ALL-SIGs basically is a response to how education in Japan has changed in the past 10 years. In 2011, the Basic Act for Persons with Disabilities was revised, and the government started to entertain the idea of inclusive education, specifically in elementary and secondary education, and that bled into tertiary education. In 2012, the Central Council of Education of Mixed further developed the law, which eventually led into the Act of Eliminating Discrimination Against People with Disabilities, which eventually took effect in 2016. Now, around that time, when the law came about, there was a sudden influx of students with learning disabilities in tertiary education, as you can see in this graph from JASAL. And also around this time, our current chair, Ryota Moriya, spoke with Andrew Raymond, who was his advisor at the time when he was completing his PhD, that he wanted to organize groups of people to talk about the issues, because it's becoming evident that there are students with special needs definitely need extra support, and not many teachers are aware of what to do. So this started in 2015 in the JALT conference in Shizuoka, and the years following that, they started to have forums to talk about what they have experienced in their classrooms, slowly gathering interest with different people, and slowly building their ranks from a group of 2 to slowly into a group of 5. In 2018, they decided to open an all Facebook group, and this started the momentum towards the development of the JALTs, the development of the group into a SIG. From this Facebook group, people started to get to know more about the issues that were there. Discussions happened in the group, in the Facebook group, and this led into 2020, when the president of JALT was invited into one of the forums, and the president at that time, Dawn, invited the group to forming the SIG officially. And in 2021 of February last year, so we're just about the same age as the previous group, we were officially recognized as a special interest group in JALT. So what are our objectives? Mainly to start and initiate the discussion regarding issues of accessibility in the language classroom. Each teacher have different experiences, and we'd like to put that together. Once we put that together, once we consolidate the findings from the discussions, we hope to solidify this common information and identify areas that require urgent action. Of course, it's very difficult to prioritize what needs action right now because the members come from different backgrounds, but we're slowly gathering those information so that we can put forward a more unified front of what we need to address. So in order to invite more members, in February this year, we were able to make our own website through Google Sites, and this is now the first phase. Whenever we introduce the SIG to potential members, we introduce the website first because this is where all the information is at. You can see what we're doing, certain terminologies that are integrated or connected to accessibility. We also have we're slowly compiling resources to help people know more about accessibility. And through the website, this serves as the base for our newsletter. The newsletter becomes the output of what we have been doing as a SIG, and we hope that in the future, this will be the output for research. For members who are not, for potential members who are not yet JALT members, these will be the first two areas that they can know more about ALL-SIG. But once they want to engage with the other members, they can join the ALL-SIG Facebook group. So I'll just scroll back to give you more. If you want to scan it with your phones, you can. Please feel free to scan this.
Please get your phones out, people.
Okay. You can also scan this QR code to access our newsletter, but you can also access the newsletter through the link on our website. And if you want to interact with the members, even if you're not a JALT member, please join us in our ALL-SIG Facebook group. We just reached 155 members, and we're happy to announce that out of that 155 members, we are now 34 members strong of financially paid JALT SIG members.
Yay.
So yeah, yay. So we hope to increase that group. There are so many things to talk about accessibility. Before I hand the baton to Alex, I'd like to open the floor for questions first. if there are questions about our SIG.
Sorry, just a very simple question. Is there a link to the ALL-SIG Facebook page?
Okay, just a moment. I'll share it in the chat.
Thank you. For some reason, I tried to look it up, but I couldn't find it. And I tried ALL-SIG, ALL-SIG, ALL-SIG one word, but nothing was working. Thank
Okay,
you.
no problem.
Is that okay to ask?
Sure, sure.
It's not actually a question. It's more a, I don't know, comment, suggestion. It will be helpful for other organizations like us if you made some kind of suggestions list or of how to make your conference more accessible. Because accessibility is part of our theme for our upcoming conference. So it'd be nice if there's anything that we can do, if there's like a checklist of suggestions. I know that Brent has done things like that for how to make your conference more sustainable. So it would be really nice if you produce something like that. Just kind of an owning eye.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the biggest struggle right now is really tapping into the members. Even if we're 33 strong, the active members are still the core group. Understandably, we establishing contacts, we're pretty new. Knowing what people can help and how they can help is a very big question for us. So we're still working on that.
Yep.
Okay. If there are no questions, I'll just add, Alex could share some of the things that we share to others.
Okay, thank you. And those of you who know me know that I'm pretty much into the practical. And so what I wanted to do is to give you something that you can actually to take into your classrooms. Now, some people might have access to Microsoft Teams, which is wonderful, but some of you might not. And so what I want to do is to share something from the Edge browser to show you something that's free that you can use with your students. So I'm just going to share my screen and hopefully it won't freeze on me. But okay, here we go. And I'm going for desktop one. Right, here we go. Here's desktop one, and I'm just going to share this. Right, okay, here is hopefully, okay, share. Right, hopefully you can see my here's a copy of the newsletter. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to, I'm going to click on a function called Immersive Reader. So I'm going to go here, click on this thing, and I was just using this a moment ago. Okay, view. Can you believe it? This is just disabled. Sharing it has just disabled Immersive Reader, which is absolutely insane. I was just about to demonstrate exactly how to use Immersive Reader for you. Okay, here we go. Let's have a look at this one. This one here does read aloud of the page because people don't often use the toolbars enough. But I'm just trying to get this thing out of the way here. Just a minute. Let me move my bar out of the way. Okay. I'll just stop the share and I'll get it into Immersive Reader and then I'll come back to it. Just one moment. Okay. All right. This and okay, I've got that now, and now I'll open it in Immersive Reader. And can you believe it? It has just stopped. That function on Edge has just literally just stopped on me. Maybe Microsoft is still having glitches. Right. Okay. I'm going to now switch gear Let's just see, it's one last chance to see if that works. View, tools, open, and it's not going to do it. So, okay, I'm going to switch my share to something different. And so here goes. What I wanted to show you on the newsletter was that we do have some instructions in there about what kinds of fonts we use. We're really proud that this is a bilingual newsletter. It's possibly one of the first bilingual newsletters that JALT has produced, and it's really exciting because now we can show this to other people. We can say, okay, here, and we can hand it over to a junior high school teacher, or we can hand it over to somebody and say, okay, can we have a look at, you know, here's something for you to read. And it was, we shared the link with quite a few people at PANSIG, and it went down extremely well. So I can't show, so here you can just go through that. You can find everything is side by side. We've got descriptions of how to use various functions. If you go back in some of the back issues, you will find information about different fonts that you can use. And what you will also notice is that this page is it's in an off-white color. And we've done that deliberately because most people assume that white is the only color you can use. But in reality, you can change your computer screen to be lots of different colors. And for example, here is changing settings for readability. This article is about changing colors. And then if you go down to the next section, this takes you to how to change the settings on your iPhone or or an Android phone to change it to a color that works for you. And you might not be aware of it, but 1 in 20 males in Japan has color vision differences. And in the Anglo-European community, it's about 1 in 8, I think it's 1 in 12 men. So it's quite a high number. And you can actually adjust your phone so that it will help you to have a different visual experience. So we've got a series of things here to step by step to show you exactly how to do this. And we've got other events, etc., and our call for things and calls for volunteers, as mentioned. Now, one of the things that that we're interested in doing as well is getting things into 2 languages. Oh, you've been using the light yellow. Yeah, that's nice, Jackson. So I want to show you something that another very practical thing that that I'm interested in is ADHD in the classroom, because students with ADHD if you're a male with ADHD, you have a 56% chance of having a reading disorder, and compared to 14% in men who don't have ADHD. And if you are a woman, you have a 46% chance of a reading disorder compared to 7% of women who don't have it. So women who have ADHD are at a much, much higher disadvantage of reading disorder. And so the most important thing is keep these people in the school system as long as you can, because the longer you stay in education, the longer you live. It's actually that simple. And ADHD estimates, which have been made by Professor Barkley, are anything from reduction in lifespan of 8 to 25 years, which is a hell of a lot, you know. And I'm really peeved because I'm ADD and I wanted my full century, which is what my grandmother got, but I don't know if I'm going to make it. But in our case, we decided that when we knew that family members had it, the kids had it, then we thought, right, we're going to step in and deal with this now so that they don't go down that pattern of living in stress that the rest of the previous generations have. So Gretchen and I worked on this poster, which I would love to show you. And it was very, very well received at PANSIG. And here we go. Let's say, okay, right now. Okay, so, and we've made it in Japanese and in English. Now, I don't know if I've got a Zoom shadow sitting here over the top of this or not. But yeah, this is our poster, and it goes through my very favorite thing. This is the AD iceberg, and this is what people think it is, but they can't focus on being hyper. But in reality, it's all of these things that are underneath. There are so many things, and it's our goal to get this part of the poster into Japanese very, very soon. So it really, it just affects so many things in your life. And you can just assume that any student with ADHD is constantly going through a surge of fight or flight all day. And they're desperately not wanting you to call on them to do something. Even if they look like they want attention, they may well be an introvert, but their ADHD is going to disturb that. And these are the issues you'll see in the classroom with these kind of points: prioritization, planning, being on time. And you can help students by the way you organize your own class behavior, and give them predictability. Make sure things are written down, make sure things are easy to find, make sure they're easy to find in multiple ways, because they might think about it from lots of different angles. ADHD people are very much problem solvers. So we came up with these lists of accommodations, etc. And one of the ones I would like to really highlight to you guys at the moment is there is a known link between ADHD, dyslexia, and difficulty retaining passwords and logging into things. So be aware that some of your students may not be handing things in because they don't know how to log in, and they are simply too embarrassed. And on that basis, I ran a couple of quick surveys with classes in the last few days, doing my sort of end of semester wrap up. And I said, you know, I can use this software to 100%, 80%, 60%. I then put giddy in so that students would relax, and then help me and can't log in. And so 2 or 3 students said, I can do this, this, and this, but I can't log into that. And they were simply too embarrassed to talk about it. So now those students are so happy because they can put their work in and they don't have to confess in front of a class. So I really do recommend a simple survey like that. And reduce boredom. And these kids have sat up the back their entire school history. They've been put at the back of the classroom to stop them disturbing others. So the chances are they haven't been able to see the board very well. Watch out for your teacher talking time. And the most important thing is to when you give an instruction, say, okay, can you just confer with the people around you? And then we'll move on to the next point. So we make sure everybody's on the same page, because students will do that. They will definitely help each other. And we're also very proud because we have this version. Yay. And this was some of my students helped to do this translation. And my good friend Naomi Omi went through it and she checked it as well. So it was so she went through it. We went through it bit by bit to make sure that it completely fit between Japanese and English. Our next challenge is the iceberg. But I would like to share this poster with you, and I would love you to share it widely. Within the ALL-SIG, we have people who are interested in this level of detail of support to different kinds of students. And that's the kind of thing we want to build, is a series of resources that someone can just grab it and look at it and go through it. Practical things that people can use, plus links to the theory behind it. So I will get off my soapbox now, but and I will pop these into the chat for you. Anybody got any questions? Oh yeah, the visible timers. My favorite app is called Time Timer. And the Time Timer, you can have, it literally looks like this, but you can have at least 10 time timers or something all in a row. Basically, you can have a start of the lesson, activity time, all of these things all the way down. And I put them on the board. I stick them on the monitor so students can see what's going on. So yeah, timers, absolutely.
That's hugely helpful, because up until now I've been using the the Google timer, and I've just been blowing it up huge, full screen on my screen. And I went to do an activity on Thursday, and I typed in Google timer to go, and all I got back from Google was news articles about people being angry that this week Google stopped using Google timer. It doesn't exist anymore as of like mid this week. So thank you for just giving me an alternative.
I'll share that. I'll share the app. Yeah, but we're going to be out of time. I think we've out of time, but
we have 5 minutes.
Oh, time timer. That's the one. Yeah, that is a fabulous app. The students really like it. And another thing that audio is really important. I think I've mentioned that in the poster. Audio is incredibly important to students, and they particularly students who have difficulty reading, and they can be fabulous speakers. So I've been tapping into that recently and creating Quizlet sets and then getting audio on them so that they can actually hear the target language. But one of the funniest things is I'll just give you one example. Sorry, another little practical thing is, okay, here we go. Okay, iPad sharing. Here it is. Okay, so this one here, and it's if I put it into flashcard mode, we should be able to... I knew that. Oh, I see. Oh,
なるほど。
and so
少ないね。
and the thing that cracks people up the most is
that's terrible.
We haven't got I need to get the voice yabai put in there, but these kind of things are really interesting to students.
Oh yes.
あれ?
What? So now that my students are all going around saying these things. And it's accessible language. It makes it interesting. I thoroughly recommend Quizlet. If you can do it, you can make all sorts of things. You can put in photographs. Yeah, that's, and anyway, I will stop talking again. But Quizlet, get in there and record voice things for your students. They will love it, and they will try really hard and play Quizlet live.
Thank you very much, Alex and Mike. That's very interesting. Can I just ask, the recording your voices for the paid version of Quizlet?
Yes. Yep. I paid for it because it's just like 5,000 yen, or at the time I did it was 5,000 yen. It might be 3,000 something now, but it's absolutely well worth it. It's remarkable what you can do with it, and you can play Quizlet live. And Quizlet live can be played even if there are students home sick with COVID, and they feel like they're part of the community, and it breaks down stigma of someone being sick and somebody not being sick. So
fantastic. And I think you've got a question here from Ellen, who's asking, can we follow you on Quizlet for Sleeper 123?
Sleeper Box 123. Yes, I should change my name to something more obvious, but yeah, you can follow me, and anybody, I'm very happy to share that set of kandoshi to people because it's a lot of fun actually. So
wonderful. Well, thank you very much once again, Mike and Alex, for that wonderful presentation. We're going to move on and hear now from Claire, who's going to talk about JASAL.
Claire, you're muted.
Hello, we've pre-recorded, so we're going to play our video, and then if you have any questions, stick them in the chat. We can answer them in real time because our brains will be freed up.
Yep, so I'm going to play the video now. So just to say as we start, so it's been really interesting this evening hearing about organizations that are just getting going. So we've been quite lucky in that both me and Claire came into JASAL as it was kind of already somewhat established, but we're going to talk a little bit about how that happened. So I hope that can be useful to some of the groups who are maybe a bit closer to the beginning of their journeys. All right, let me just find my, okay, can you see the screen? And more importantly, when I play it, tell me that you can hear the audio.
Hello, my name is Clair Taylor, and I'm the former president of JASAL, the Japan Association for Self-Access Learning. And I was president for 3 years up until March 2022. And I'm here tonight with Katherine Thornton, who is the current president. And we'd just like to tell you a little bit about our organization. So tonight we're going to divide our talk into 3 sections. First up, I'd like to talk about self-access. What is it? What are self-access centers? What are social language learning spaces? And then Katherine is going to talk to you about JASAL and tell you a little bit about the history of the organization and what it is that we do. And finally, I'd like to give you a few tips in case you're interested in introducing self-access in your setting. So first up, what is self-access? What are self-access centers, or SACs? And SACs are also known as self-access learning centers, or SALCs. And I'd like to introduce them by showing you the very first SAC that I ever worked in. And this is going back something like 25 years ago. This is Hildestone College, which is a really good language school in the south of the UK. And I worked there for 1 summer. And you can see from the picture, the Multimedia Learning Center. This is a classic SAC. And you can see from the picture what kind of facility it is. So you can see it's not a classroom. And it's a space that provides a range of resources and materials for learners to choose from. And of course, going back 20, 30 years, learners just didn't have smartphones with streaming video and various apps for learning languages and the kind of web resources that we have now, which you can just carry around in your device. So you really needed a space that provided those resources for learners to come and use. And these spaces usually also provided places to study. So not just self-access centers, place where you access the materials, but also places where you use the materials, where you gather and study with friends or you study by yourself. So you can see that there are different workstations here in the picture too. And you can also see that it has a nice design, it has plants, it's a kind of place that attracts students, a place that people want to spend time. And there's a staff desk, and that's really key. Self-access centers typically have staff there most or all of the time, and they can help the learners select the right kind of materials that are going to help them, and they can show the learners how to use the computers and how to check out materials, and just talk to the learners about their learning journey and help them move forward in their language learning. So this is a classic SAC. And now I'm going to show you the place that I currently work at. So this is Lounge MELT and MELT Annex. MELT stands for Maximum English Learning Together. And it has a lot of similarities. And you could say very broadly, it's a kind of SAC or SALC. But the key difference is that it doesn't have a great deal of resources. This is a place where learners come not primarily to access resources to use. They have many of those, in their smartphone. What it is a place where students can gather so that they can speak together in the language or languages that they're learning, and a place where they can get support from peers and from learning advisors so that they can learn effectively. So it's a comfortable space. It has sofas and beanbags. Students can relax there, and when they're relaxed, it's easy for them to communicate or to have conversations in the languages they're learning. And there are lots of things the students can use there. We have musical instruments like guitars, we have iPads and computers, we have lots of magazines that students can browse through. We have games like Jenga or Scrabble, Generally, you find that students find it easier to talk around an activity, around a game of Jenga, or around a guitar, where there isn't the pressure of just sitting around a blank table and saying, okay, let's practice English. You know, the conversation happens more naturally around an activity that they're already enjoying. So this is a space for community, for building community, for holding events, and for students just to get together and learn together. And you know, common term for this kind of space was conversation lounge, although that seems rather narrow, as if it's only used for conversation, whereas a social language learning space implies that there's more than conversation. There's conversation, there's study, there are events, there's learning advising and other things going on. It's a little bit broader than just a conversation lounge. And you can see on the side, we also have Melt Annex. This is a room that's connected by an archway to Lounge Melt. And we built this extension, this annex to our lounge, because we wanted learners to have a space where they could study quietly. If they want to practice doing an IELTS test with one of the learning advisors or with a friend, they really need some quiet to do that. And it's difficult to do that in a room where there's lots of noise and laughter and loud conversation and people singing Ed Sheeran songs at the top of their lungs. So we made this quieter space where students come and study, you know, focus on practicing test questions that come up in a TOEIC test, or writing essays to practice for their IELTS test, or working on an important assignment that they need peace and quiet for. So we have this quiet area. And we also have study booths. And this is a common feature of social language learning spaces and SALCs, places where students can go and study individually or study in a small group. One of our booths has a mirror, and students can practice doing a recitation or presentation and see their gestures in the mirror. And another key feature is this advising room, and learners can book appointments with a learning advisor to talk about their learning journey and to make a learning plan, and to talk about issues they're having with their learning and how to overcome them. So you can see here the key features of a SALC, or a social learning space: places to learn, materials to learn with, and staff support, especially learning advising, which has really been growing, especially in Japan. Learners at our centre can also come to the centre, come to MELT, and find a partner to do teletandem with, a partner in another country where they can teach Japanese and they can learn English, so they can do a language exchange using Zoom or Google Meet or those kinds of video conferencing tools. And we set up those partnerships for our students. So I hope that's given you an idea of the kind of self-access spaces that are out there. And now I'm going to hand you over to Katherine, and she's going to talk a little bit about what JASAL does.
So thanks, Claire, first of all, for inviting me to talk to you here today, and also for that great summary of how self-access centres can function. And I've been to Claire's space, and it's a beautiful, really friendly, fun space to be in. As Claire said, I'm Katherine Thornton. I'm actually the current president of the Japan Association for Self-Access Learning, and I'm also the director of a self-access centre in Osaka at Otomongakuin Daigaku. We have two spaces on two different campuses, and you can see them both here. But today I'm going to be talking in my role as a member of the JASAL board, and tell you a little bit more about the organization. So before I go on to do that, I just thought it might be useful to talk a little bit about the history of self-access. The field of self-access is generally seen as having started in France at the University of Nancy in the late 70s. And this was when Henry Hollick, who many of you will know as maybe most known for his work on learner autonomy, he was actually based at that university at the time. And From the University of Nancy, it really spread out over the 80s and 90s and with the particular areas becoming particularly focused on self-access learning. So there was a big centre in the UK focused on advising at Hull and at Cambridge. Then in the 1990s, self-access really seemed to gain a lot of attention in Hong Kong, and then also in Mexico, where it was really kickstarted by a huge government grant that I think set up over 80 self-access centres across the country, and some of them are really huge and still going strong today. And there was also quite a strong pocket of best practice happening in New Zealand and also to a certain extent in Australia. But in terms of Japan, self-access in Japan really started with a couple of what I would say are early pioneers in the field. So first of all, up at Akita International University in Tohoku, Gerald Murray and Sarah Cottrell set up the LDIC. And then Lucy Cooker in 2001 set up the Self-Access Learning Centre, the SALC, at Kandy University of International Studies. And it was from these institutions that the members of the first JASAL board were taken. So this was Gerald Murray, Lucy Cooker, and also Hisako Yamashita, who was also working with Lucy up at Kandy University of International Studies. And they started JASAL at a meeting at an autonomy conference in 2005. And it was really started because they felt they needed a support network. They realized there were a few different people doing different things in self-access learning. But as is now, the major conferences really focus on classroom-based learning. So they wanted to set up their own support network, and JASAL was that network. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about this huge amount of information in detail, but this is how JASAL has evolved since it started in 2005. So across the top, you can see the years and the different boards that we've had. We're now on the 5th board, and then down the side, we've got the different kind of activities that we're involved in. So looking first of all at the first board, really, so they were setting up a new organization. So they really focused on expanding the membership and really building a community of self-access practitioners, and they quite quickly launched the website, set up an online discussion group to give people access to different resources, and they also ran forums at major conferences, usually at the JALT conference every year. So this is what their first board did. Then I got involved in 2011, and I've been on the board ever since. And when I got involved, we started focusing on a few different things and really growing the organization. So first of all, although we really enjoyed the forums, we realized that there's no substitute for being able to visit a center, talk to the staff, and hopefully also talk to the students. Sometimes we ask students to actually run these tours. And it really was quite inspirational to be able to actually be in a space. So we started these SAC tours, which we tend to try and run alongside a major conference. So for example, if the JALT conference or a PAN-SIG or JALT call was maybe in Nagoya, on the Friday afternoon before the conference, we try and set up a SAC tour at one of the universities there, so Meiji or Sugiyama, something like that. Then as our events were growing, we realized we probably had enough interest in the forums and the SAC tours to actually run our own standalone conference. So we've been doing this since 2015. TIA's conference is going to be up in Akita. So if anyone fancies a trip to Akita in October, do come along. And then one other thing that we really started in the second iteration of the board, which I'm really proud of, is starting a really strong focus on student-focused and student-led events. So this really started when Umida Ashirova, who many of you will know, I'm sure, came to us in 2012 saying that she had a great group of students who were really active in her self-access center, and they really wanted to hold some kind of conference. And we had our first student conference in 2013. And then since then, we've had one maybe every year, every other year. And since then, we've continued to grow and things have developed in different ways. But just finally, more recently, I'd like to talk about two things that we're doing. So first of all is the setting up of the JASAL journal, which happened in 2019. And the most recent one came out just a few weeks ago. It's open access, so feel free to check it out on our website. And then also, this is really thanks to Claire as well and her tenure as the president since 2019. And we've been really looking to increase both our national and international legitimacy. So that's a little bit of what JASAL's been doing. So just to summarize, so I think in terms of our contribution to self-access language learning in Japan, I think first and foremost, we provide a really supportive community. So this doesn't surprise me at all. If you work in self-access, your day job really is to create that supportive community among the students at your institution. So as I say, it doesn't surprise me one bit that we've been able to have a really supportive community develop around self-access within Japan. I think we've done a pretty good job at disseminating best practice and facilitating research. This has been obviously through the conferences and also through the articles that we've published and now the journal that we have as well. And one really important role that we've undertaken is that of documenting a self-access language learning development. So we have a registry of language learning centers to try and keep track of where they are in Japan. It's by no means complete, but it's a step in the right direction. And then also, obviously, through the journal, we're able to document various trends and things as well. At this point, I'd just like to acknowledge the other important contributions that have been made by different organizations in Japan as well. So JASAL is just one of the parties working to support self-access and learner autonomy in Japan. So first of all, there's the CSAL journal, the Studies in Self-Access Learning Journal, which started in 2010, so it's been going for a long time now, has 4 issues a year and some really good quality research. And then also based at Kanda University of International Studies, there is an external language consultancy center, and this consultant center has been responsible for setting up, I think, at least 6 different self-access centers across Japan, often in quite rural areas too. And then finally, in the last couple of years, we've seen the launch of the Research Institute for Learner Autonomy Education, again based at Kanda University of International Studies under Dr. Joe Maynard, and they've been really instrumental in bringing the field forward, in facilitating research, bringing speakers to Japan and things like that. So this is a really good resource that you can check out if you're interested. Okay, so finally, I'd like to finish by just looking at a few trends that I see in self-access within self-access centers in Japan. So first of all, they seem to be concentrated in private universities. So unlike maybe public or national universities, which have no problem attracting students, a lot of private universities are often competing for this dwindling number of students that we have in Japan. So having a self-access center is a way of adding value, and maybe having a nice sparkly center in your brochures certainly can't hurt there. So these centers can tend to be a little bit top down, so they may be established for these kind of reasons and not always have a very sound pedagogical basis. But there's also a trend of bottom-up centers. So Claire's center is a great example of this, where you've got some dedicated faculty who want to start and provide some extra facilities for their students who read up on self-access and start it going. So we see both of these models happening in Japan. But regardless of the model, I think there's been maybe a triple focus on what SALCs are really focusing on in Japan these days. And this is something that I wrote about along with Claire and other board members of the third board in a recent paper. So we see these 3 things as being really important to self-access centers in Japan. So providing opportunities for target language communication, fostering autonomy, often through advising and other courses and things like that, and facilitating intercultural exchange. And different centers may lie at different points in this Venn diagram. So for example, my center, we do pretty much try and do all 3 of these things, but other centers may have slightly different focuses, or may not even focus on one area at all. So if you do have a center, you might like to think where it would lie in this diagram, or if you're interested in starting some facilities or some kind of services, you might want to think about looking at the needs and wants of your student body, where it would be most, what kind of focus would be most appropriate for your students. And then also just to summarize as well, so I think we see in Japan, there's a real strong focus on advising services within Japan and this learner autonomy development. Japan is also really good at student involvement and community building. So most centers that I've visited have student staff or a student volunteer group who really support the center. And there really are social learning spaces in a way that, for example, when talking to some of the practitioners in Hong Kong, they said that was less the case over there. And then also one thing that we haven't mentioned so far is that English tends to be the dominant focus language of SALCs in Japan, just as English is the main foreign language learnt in Japanese universities. That's not to say there aren't centers which focus on other languages too, but English is maybe unsurprisingly most dominant. Okay, so I hope that's been interesting just to learn a little bit about the organization. I'm going to pass back to Claire now, who's going to talk a little bit about some of the things you could do if you're interested in getting more involved in self-access and learning at your own institution. So thank you very much.
So I'd like to share just a few tips, just in case you're interested in promoting self-access in your setting. And first and foremost, I'd say join JASAL. It's free to join, there's no membership fee, and you can go to the website and see how to join, jasalorg.com. And the reason I suggest joining is we have so many people who come to us and say, oh, if only we'd known about you, if only we'd known about this community and this field and your journal and your conference. We've just set up a center and we did it without knowing that all this information was out there. And if we had known, we'd have done things very, very differently. So I don't want you to have any regrets before you start doing anything. Join JASAL, start looking at the journal, come to some conferences, come and visit some centers. We do SAC tours, and then you can ask all kinds of questions, get inspiration, and then I think you'll have more success in getting a center up and running. The next thing I'd suggest, if you're starting to build a space, by yourself or a small group of you or a small group of your students that are interested. If you're starting from the bottom like that, I recommend starting really, really small. Some people start with just something like a lunch table. So they might just choose one table in the cafeteria and meet with students there and speak in English, whatever your the language you're learning is. And it starts from something as small as that, and then you can build the community up from there. I know the pandemic has made that sort of thing a little bit difficult, but it could even be an online space, like Wonder.me or a Discord group, and then you can just meet there and start building a speaking community. That could be the start. It could be really, really small. The other thing I'd suggest is to involve your students right from the get-go in the design and the development of your space. If the students help to choose the furnishings and the plants and the color scheme with you, they feel a lot more ownership of the space, and it's easier to build a strong community when the students feel that sense of ownership. And one of the most successful things we do is whenever we buy furniture, we buy flat pack, and we get together with the students and just put it together. And in a normal situation in a class, the teacher has some sort of, there's a little bit of a power difference between the teacher and the students. But when you're building flat pack furniture together, all of that disappears. Everyone's equal. Everyone's just trying to work out how to put the chair together. And it's a really fun thing to do with your students. And it really does give them that sense of ownership of the space. The next tip I have for you is not really that intuitive, but it's incredibly important. It's to document everything you're doing. And when you start a space, what you want to put your time and energy into is the atmosphere and attracting the students and the design and, you know, planning events and just generally building up that community. And it's easy to forget to write everything down, to keep records. How many students are coming? What have you purchased? How many events have you held? How many people came to those events? You want to document everything as much as possible so that you have a record. And if you're trying to approach management to ask for more funding, to grow your space, it really helps to have solid evidence of what you've done. And also for you to learn by looking at everything that's happened so far and to build on that. And when new people get involved in the project, they've got that whole history there to learn from. It's so important. So it's easy to forget, but really make a point of documenting everything. Trust me, you will not regret that. Another suggestion I have for you is if you're not quite ready to start making a space at this point, either virtual or physical, you might like to bring advising into your classroom. So usually advising happens in a self-access centre, in a SALC, in a social language learning space, or in a virtual space online. But you can bring advising methods and techniques into your classroom. And if you see the QR code here, Hisako Yamashita has given a fantastic presentation, which gives you lots of ideas about how you can do that. So I recommend having a look at that video. Another suggestion I have, for if you're perhaps not quite ready to set up a fully fledged space at this point, is to consider starting some language exchanges. If you can find partners for your students or help your students find language exchange partners, that can be a wonderful way of developing learner autonomy. And that could be online, or it could be, if you have many international students in your institution, you might be able to set those up face-to-face between students on your campus. So that's another way where you can help your students use their English outside of the classroom and develop some learner autonomy, even if you don't yet have a centre, a SALC, a self-access space, or a social language learning space at the place where you work. So we've given you a few ideas, and we're here tonight to answer any questions. And if you have anything you'd like to ask us, we're really happy to help.
Thank you very much, Catherine and Claire. So thank you everyone for this evening. We have about 5 minutes left. If there are any questions or comments for Catherine or Claire, 4 minutes. I'd just like to say then, thank you once again. Please feel free, Catherine or Claire, to come visit at Aichi Prefectural University. We are a national university that has a language self-access center. It's kind of an interesting setup. So if you're ever interested in looking at a national university, please get in contact with me. You're more than welcome.
Absolutely. I always love seeing every model is different. So it's really interesting to see how people.
And we're next to the new Ghibli Park, so. So thank you everyone for joining this evening, and thank you to all of our speakers for the 3 very different presentations, all on topics that are going to be of interest to more and more people as we help you send out the message from tonight's meeting as well. So we're going to close now. I'm going to go. Oh, sorry, Alex, you want to say something? You're muted, sorry.
Oh, just hello.
Hello.
Thank you. I've been lurking, but I saw a message from Dawn at about 5:15 and rushed home from somewhere, and I'm glad I came.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Ellen.
If anybody's got 5 minutes left, would you like to have a go at Quizlet Live and just see what it is that my students do that makes them absolutely want to get off their COVID sick beds to join the game? And I've actually got a topic which is quite worthwhile for you guys, and that is air conditioner kanji. So I'm just, if anybody wants to join, you're welcome to do it. I'm just going to make individuals, and you don't need to put your real name in. I'm going to share this screen. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share with sound. Okay, Quizlet Live, here we go. You need your phone.
We moderator done. Where is it? Okay.
I think this is it. 15 more minutes.
Brilliant.
Another 10 seconds. Oh,
I'm toggling.
okay, so you get it? Okay, right.
856. Hold on. Oh, I was too late.
Oh, do you want me to, I can put.
Oh no, I'm not too late. 856. Oh.
Sorry. It's got to be loud too, yeah. Students love it to be loud. I sound didn't work one day and the students see it practice. Okay, right, and I've put that into the right, here we go. And let's go.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, if you miss one, you get bumped to the Oops. Oh, Catherine was the winner. So this is like, this game is like nothing on earth. And so all of my keywords that I'm teaching, and also sentences after they've done keywords, we do this and we can, you can change the, you can, if you do play again, you can basically.
Can we turn the volume off? Can we turn the music off or down? It's very difficult to hear anything else.
Okay, you can switch it from Japanese, starting with English to starting with Japanese. And so I do that both directions because students need to know which way to be able to go both directions. So they need to be able to go from Japanese to English or English to Japanese. And you can also put people into teams. And when you do team mode, only one person in the team will have the answer. So you have to, like, you can't just jump in there. You have to look at it. Do I know this? And wait. And it's remarkable how good that is for actually building little communities in the classroom as well. So I thoroughly recommend Quizlet, and I recommend Quizlet Live. And it's nice because when you're actually competing, you don't have a real name showing. So no one can see who's winning and who's not winning. So nobody could see the fact that Catherine was going to thrash us all. So, but we did get to see her name at the end of it. So, and I don't tell students to use their real names. I just get them, you know, they can put whatever they like in there. But yeah, Quizlet, Quizlet Live, anybody can run a Quizlet Live, even, but as a teacher, I mean, I can, as a teacher, my benefit is that I can actually put my students into groups, but they like the random factor when we do it. But I start with individual practice, group practice, and never just straight into group because they could be embarrassed. But if you're giving them steps, it's a lot of fun. So enjoy. Okay, thank you.
all right, thank you.
All right.
I didn't know what button I was pressing. Thank you very much. Okay, so if you have a moment also to fill out our feedback, which is in the chat link, that would be wonderful. Thank you, everyone, and see you all soon. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
It is night. Oh my gosh.